I'm Rosie Hardy, this is Rosie Hardy Gardening, and it's Q&A time again. Let's see what everybody has sent in. So, hi Rosie, thinking about your post a few weeks ago regarding the amount of rain, I think we're going to have to adapt to wetter winters and drier summers. With that in mind, any suggestions for plants who will cope either perhaps winter flooding but summer drought? So my thoughts on this, and I'm assuming that this person is from the UK, we probably need to use more spring flowering ephemeral plants, so ones that are used to being wet through the winter, flower beautifully through the spring, maybe to May, and then are summer deciduous, so then they disappear and it doesn't matter about the fact that it gets dry in the summer and very hot. So that is one thing, so they disappear and avoid that extreme harsh, but then also then having a slight gap in the summer period and going on to autumn flowering perennials, which are happy to have it a little bit warmer while they're just growing and then have a beautiful autumn to grow and flower and mature. So I'm thinking of things like riverbank plants, for instance, which are used to the ebb and flow of water and work really well, so they can get flooded during the winter months, and then in the summer and the water has receded and they're happy to keep going. So some of the things that I think we should be thinking about are Geum rivale, Anenome flaccida, Eutrochium varieties, and I'm just going to add one more, Baptisia. So those are things that I think will work quite well with weather we are getting now. Can you give me some advice on how to care for evergreen ferns, please? Should I cut them right back down in the spring? Do they need feeding? And this person is in the Norfolk in the UK. With evergreen ferns, they will have leaf that looks good all year round, but they will also have leaf that is starting to die back. I wouldn't personally cut them right back down hard. I would trim off old foliage that looks bad, and then that will make the plant look a lot better. Now, you need to make sure that you understand what they require. Some of these will want it slightly drier, some will want it wetter, so that's just dependent on the varieties. So make sure either they don't get too wet and they don't dry out too much. That's very key. You can give them a little bit of food, but I would only liquid feed them, and in which case use something like a seaweed food. That will be perfectly good enough for them. Now, this next question really had my brain working to try and give you an answer which you can understand. And this is, hi Rosie, you often talk about plants being a species. Please could you explain the difference between species, cultivars and name varieties, and how to tell which is which from the plant name? This is from Angela. Okay, so what you have to think about is that what their naming is their ranking. So basically you start off with the genus, which is the family name. Then you go into the species, that's the next bit. Then it gets a bit more confusing when you've got cultivar and variety. So let's think about this with a specific. So you've got broccoli and cabbage. They are the same species, but they are different cultivars. So once you go down, so it's like going genus and then you're going brother and sister. I hope that makes more sense because you can work it out. And then you're going into whether that sister has a cousin. And that's where the family splits come. So you've got the genus, the family name, you've got the species, the type, and then you've got cultivars. So cultivars, you will get seedling variation from. If you've got variety, they should always be this, or named varieties, they should always come from seed the same. I know that's still a little bit confusing, but hopefully it sort of demystified it a little bit for you. Hi Rose, I had some success with cuttings, Penstemon Czar and Salvia Nactvalinda, which are still in the greenhouse. Should I risk hardening off now or should I cut them back? They're about 5 inches tall. Don't want to lose them now. Thank you for your posts. Okay, so what I would say, so if they're standing this height, you need to pinch them down. So that means going down, take out the top growth and go down at least 2 pairs of leaves and cut to a pair of leaves. That will pinch them out, that will make them bushy. You should then be able to take some more cuttings from those pieces that you've taken off. So that's another little tip there. Yes, it is definitely time to start hardening them off. And you can harden them off by, depending on where they are. So you don't say whether they're, do you say whether they're in, yeah, you say they're in a greenhouse. Okay, so you could open the greenhouse out, but you might have other things that need it. So if they're in trays and pots, take them outside and leave them outside and start leaving them out. If you get a frost warning, then cover them up or put them back into the greenhouse. But definitely start hardening them off now, otherwise you're going to get drawn cuttings, and pinch them out is definitely what you require. You may have seen recently that we have partnered with Genus Gardenware. I am delighted with this because I already own several pieces from them. They have survived the work on the nursery, and today I am wearing their green pair. Love the colour of these ones, and they're great because they've got so many pockets all over the place, and the pockets I really love are these ones down the side where you can put your snips or your secateurs in, and they are Kevlar lined, so you don't get rips where the points of your secateurs go in. They've also got these amazing knee pads which come right the way through to here, so when you actually go down to kneel, they are in the right place for you to be kneeling very comfortably. These ones are part of the RHS collection. They are the only gardenware endorsed by the RHS, and they have an RHS collection which I will link down below. Now back to the rest of the questions. Can you go through which grasses can and can't be cut back at this time of the year? Right, so the majority of grasses have got dead growth on the top, and you can cut back to what you can see as new growth. Some won't be showing growth, so you could wait just another month until they're starting to show growth, but the majority you can start to cut back now. Just take care with something like Carex, because they are the evergreen grasses, and the evergreen grasses don't appreciate being cut right back down. It's better to take out the dead growth out of those. The reason I say that is you can cut them back, but you'll be left with stubby growth and they won't look as elegant. So just look at them from that point of view, but otherwise go for it, cut them down, you'll get a good grass coming back. Hi Rosie, I have Helleborus argutifolius here in Northern California, US Zone 8. It seems to be flattened every year by our infrequent snowfall. Should I stake it? One thing I would say about staking and a plant like this is that it has its natural defense of, if it does get snow on it, it collapses over and doesn't break. If you go and stake it, then you are, and unless you put the staking high enough, you are going to damage it maybe a little bit more. So just be careful of how you do the staking, and make sure that perhaps if you are going to stake, you put a covering netting over the top so that within its staking area it doesn't get dumped on by the snow and then flatten it in a way which damages it more than if it was just freestanding and the snow came and it gradually goes over. I hope that makes sense to you. So yes, you can stake, but do it carefully. When should I put dahlia tubers into the ground? I was gifted a clump last fall. They've been in my garage all winter. I live in Zone 8B, Seattle, Washington area, climate similar to here in the UK. What I would say is that I prefer, you don't say whether the tubers are in a container, but I would prefer that the tubers were potted up and started to grow before you go and move them out into the garden. That means that you will get them growing, you'll have some lovely new shoots on them, the roots will have started, and you can take a couple of cuttings off those plants as they're growing in the spring, so that you've got new young plants to keep going. And that way then, once they've grown, you can then move them very easily out into the garden, or if you're wanting to put them into the ground, or you can then move that container outside once you've got good growth going on them. So that is how I would do. You will need to be taking them out of the garage though for them to grow on. They need somewhere where there is light. Hello Rosie, if the description says height and spread is eventually 5 feet by 4 feet, do I have to allow for this when planting a plant now which is only at about a foot in size? So yes, you do need to think about how big the plant is going to get. but that can take 2 to 3 years to get to that size. So in that time, you'll have a lot of empty space around the plant that you're putting in. So what you need to do is put your plant in, think about where it's going to go to, and then put in either ground cover plant material around it or annuals or very short-lived perennials, so that as the plant grows, it takes over the spot, but it also means that you haven't got a dead area in the garden. So utilize annuals and short-living perennials just to give you that fill of space until this plant matures. Hi Rosie, I'm planting a new border including Stipa tenuissima grasses, but spring bulbs, rudbeckias, amaranths, bronze fennel, sunflowers later in the year. I'd like to mulch the border with compost. It's a mix of green waste compost and horse manure. Can I mulch the whole lot? Would Stipa grasses flop? The soil currently is a topsoil. I had a lawn growing there previously. I'm in the East Midlands, UK. Okay, so if you put on too much mulch and you've already got the Stipa tenuissima in the ground, they will flop a little bit. So give them less or don't give them any at all. But the rest of the area, I would say mulch. Mulch is always a good idea. The rudbeckia will love it, the fennel will love it. So just be aware that if you're putting it on, don't put too much onto the Stipa and then you should be fine. Hi Rosie, I sowed some sweet peas in multi-purpose compost in root trainers a few weeks ago. They will not be able to be planted out until late May at the earliest. Should I start to feed them at any point, or will there be enough nutrients in the compost? Now, because it's a multi-purpose compost, it probably has a starter feed, and that is all it has in there. It will have said on the bag there will have been a nutrient ratio, but it's never a huge amount. So the answer is yes, you will need to feed them at some point over the next couple of months. I would say every 3 to 4 weeks, give them a feed, but nothing really strong. Give them something like a seaweed food. That is perfectly good enough for them. That doesn't need to be high in nitrogen. If they're in root trainers and they're starting to come up, make sure that once the growth is getting up to somewhere around about 10 centimetres, 5 inches, that you have started to pinch them out. You'll get bushier plants, you'll get a better plant to grow out. But yes, do give them a little bit of feed because they will require it. Hi Rosie, I have 2 jasmine plants. One has got pink buds, the other white. Do these plants differ in more ways than the colour of their buds, and can they be planted out in the garden in a zone 8, wet and humid? So with jasmine, you can sometimes have different varieties, but they will be the same species. That is obvious with the leaf type. So what I would suggest, if the leaves look the same, but your buds are different colours, then the plants will need to grow in the same conditions. You should be able to plant them out in the garden, absolutely, and they're going to be better off in the garden and you'll get more enjoyment there. So please do put them out, but just check that the leaf is the same. If it's the same, then it's just a colour variation on the flower that is different with your plants. I bought some winter aconites in the green yesterday. They were very tall but cheap. When I came to divide them, it looks like most of them don't have visible tubers, just roots. Do you think they'll make tubers and are worth keeping? With winter aconite, they don't produce massive tubers anyway, so you would just have root. And if you've bought them as a clump, I wouldn't split them up too small. I would keep them as little clumps and put them out in the ground. It's worth trying them. You know, you got them, they were cheap, so put them in the ground. You've got nothing to lose, but they don't produce a tuber in the same way as your later summer aconites do. And I would just, you know, put them in as a larger clump, and then once they're growing next season, you can divide them up then. Hopefully that has given you all answers that you wanted. Thank you very much for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel.